Welcome to Phase 4. We'll be talking through security and legal. This is video 4.1. In this lesson, we'll be discussing where you should be so far, employee versus freelancer and contractor, first steps to securing your business when working with a VA, and 8 easy ways to maintain privacy and security. So let's get started. So this is where you should be so far. This is a recap of phases 1 through 3. Your VA has been secured and potentially hired, or they soon will be. You have finished your time audit. You're clear on the task your VA will be helping you with. You've taken the tools, platforms, and software. You've chosen which ones you want. They're in place. Also, your mini tutorials and your SOPs have been started or some of them are finished. And then you have scheduled a 1-hour block each week for these. Your cloud folders are set up with the documents edited, and then they're in place, and communication platforms like Slack, Zoom, etc. are in place. We're excited for you to start working with your VA, but let's kind of walk you through some other things here. Let's talk about an employee versus freelancer / contractor, and this is important. It needs to be said. You are hiring a full-time, long-term employee. And I know when I use the word employee, it probably makes you cringe, but don't worry. This is not a normal local employee. The U.S. government will not consider this person an employee. In fact, you won't be paying employment taxes. You won't pay insurance or benefits on your taxes, well, at least here in the U.S. You'll still report this as a subcontractor payment, and it will be a deduction. And in the notes, I'll link to something which clarifies all the different tax issues. So we get a lot of questions, and people say, hey, I'm hiring someone from the Philippines, but how does employment practices in the Philippines work? So we got a real quick overview. In fact, we've created a guide that shows you what the employment procedures are in the Philippines, and it covers employment types, work hours and schedules, benefits and leave policies, optional benefits, performance management, and employee separation. This is going to be attached inside this module. And this kind of gives you a real quick idea of what that looks like for reference. Now, let's move on to securing your business so that you can leverage a VA successfully. And data security, we all know, should be a concern, period. Data protection is vital for any business today. Risk of lost, stolen, or leaked data is very real. And the ultimate goal is for you to feel confident working with your VA and enjoy the cost and time-saving benefits that they provide. So let's walk through. Here are some of the myths that we've heard regarding working with a VA. Anyone, regardless of their moral code, can post an ad offering VA services, which is suspicious. VAs work remotely, so they cannot be held accountable. VAs have access to my documents and private information. Remote VAs work from off-site computers and devices, making it impossible to keep an eye out for info that is stored on a remote, unsecured computer. So let's debunk some of these security myths. So there are VA services available all over the globe. You got Ukraine, Europe, Asia, Philippines, etc. Any services provided from outside the U.S., it will contain risks, as there are risks with any other endeavor that you're going to attempt. Even in our daily routine activities, we face risks. From the moment we get out of bed, walk to the kitchen, or go down the stairs on our way to work, following the steps to follow that we'll be showing you here will help you be thoroughly protected, reducing the security risks presented by your VA and even in-house employees. So, where the VA is found, and this is important. If a VA is found from Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or other random sites on the internet, it is likely they will not be vetted. A VA should undergo an extensive vetting process, a background check, a rating system. A company or agency who takes the time to conduct research, perform interviews, obtain verified documents, have demonstrated success and minimized risk for entrepreneurs who seek to collaborate with virtual assistants. So you should also be doing your own vetting prior to hire. So not only is using a company who has a vetting process important, but being involved in the process on who you hire will help to put your mind at rest. You're going to have a scheduled interview, a list of good questions to ask, review all the documents that were provided, and then you can decide for yourself whether the VA will make a trustworthy virtual administrative assistant. So provide specific access. So you want to customize access to protect your information. So here's an example. My VA does not have access to my entire database, like all my folders, desktop, private, hard drives, etc. My VA has been granted restricted access only to the necessary information that will allow them to perform their delegated specific roles and tasks. Also, there are monitoring tools that you can use to protect your information. We'll be talking through one of them. You will create a secure business for your VA by using monitoring tools, averting data interception like Bitwarden, LastPass, KeePass, and these protect passwords. There's also Content Guard that can nip in the bud all attempts of third parties to open documents that might be forwarded to them. There are other tools that prevent cut and paste or screenshots or ensure print control and web filtering like InterGuard, File Open, WebSense Data Endpoint for digital documents. There are tools that you can use to allow you to have everything protected. Let's talk about maintaining security and privacy when working with your VA. So we have 8 of them here. The first one is make sure your passwords and login info is always secure. When working with a VA, it's inevitable that they will need to access some of your systems via login. Make sure your VA has their own unique username and password to these systems so they leave their digital fingerprint and you can track when they access them. This applies to your website, social media, project management, email, file storage, and other cloud-based systems. Creating a password that is strong and difficult to guess is extremely important. We'll be talking through this in the next video. Ideally, it should utilize a combination of numbers, symbols, and letters, mixing lower and uppercase, with the optimal length starting at 12 characters and above. I like to use 16 characters personally. Stay away from common phrases or words and do not reuse passwords from other accounts, as any hacker which gains access to them will also be able to compromise your VA. All right, number 2, consider using multi-factor authentication. This form of authentication is extremely robust and makes it far more difficult for hackers to access your accounts. Even if they are able to figure out your password, multi-factor authentication requires both the password as well as another piece of data. The secondary data could be a temporary phone code or a randomly generated number. Review your account's security settings to learn how to implement this extra layer of protection if you haven't already. Okay, number 3, don't give out financial information. Financial information such as access to bank accounts, credit card information should be kept secure. If your VA is accessing your accounting program for bookkeeping purposes, ensure they have their own login and profile. It is absolutely necessary to divulge your credit card information. Be assured that financial institutions have stringent controls on expenditure or purchases in foreign countries. That should protect you if any such fraud occurs. Number 4, the host with the most. Make sure you host all of your systems and business documents on your own server or cloud accounts. You need to be the creator or owner of all working files and systems that you share with your VA, so you maintain control. So don't let your VA create and share documents from their own folders or set up cloud-based systems that you're going to have to use on their accounts. Number 5, review your settings periodically. You still want to periodically review the software and the sites that your VA has access to, verifying everything's in order, that your VA is using their access as intended. I also suggest changing your passwords every so often without an announcement or warning. Simply let your VA know you've made some changes and that they should sync their Bitwarden to update all the accounts. Side note, when using Bitwarden, you can make all these changes and all the VA has to do is just go into their Bitwarden, click sync, and they have access. You don't have to update everyone else's computer. You just update it once. It's really nice. Number 6, limit knowledge. Your VA should be on a need-to-know basis for any sensitive business information. Create a shareable file that is purely for tasks that you and your VA work on together, and leave the rest of your operational files separate. If they do need to work on a confidential document, allow them access to the document for the time needed and then uninvite or change access privileges once that work is completed. Number 7, use administrator privilege. Many systems and programs that your VA will use allow you to choose the level of access that they have, and you can grant your VA certain types of access, which will limit their roles and capabilities within the system. For example, you may want to set up your VA as an editor on your website, which will allow them to be able to publish and manage posts, but not give them access to other features within the site. And number 8, develop clear security policies. Most VAs and brokers understand the general need to take care with their clients and company data. I suggest you take data security seriously and set out your expectations precisely and clearly. You can do this by publishing a documented security policies and directives in place and make it applicable to all team members, your VA, and employees who might be allowed access to your data. We have created a template called security policies and directives that you'll be able to use that will also be available here in this module. Here is an example of what that looks like. Okay, so that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.